people think. Sorry, I need to unmute you, don't I? I'll unmute you. There we go.
Can I just say, one of the points that you made very early on was when you were saying about the huge demonstrations that there've been in the past, and yet nothing was getting through to the media coverage. It wasn't covered. There's been lots of things that have not even made the news and not made the newspapers.
Mm.
And I've been doing some research for a service that I'll be taking during Refugee Week in June. And one of the things that shocked me still, because these figures only came out in 2019, and they were talking about the top 10. It's done by a group based from the UN who actually study freedom of the press.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
And there are they named the top 10 countries that were very good, and I thought, oh, well, we're bound to be somewhere in that.
Good on what? Sorry.
We're bound to be somewhere in that top 10.
Top 10 of what?
Top 10 countries of that have good press freedom.
Oh, I see. Oh no, I don't think so.
And we are actually 35th.
I'm not surprised.
On the list out of 180.
Yeah.
America is another 10 below us.
Yeah.
45. But the ones that are the top of the list are Finland and Sweden and Norway, yeah, and those ones.
Yeah.
And way down at the bottom of the list, you'll be very pleased to know that on the bottom 10, China is in there, of course, and Syria and various other things. And the one that is 180th out of 180 is North Korea.
Yeah, well, it's not too surprising to hear
that. But I was quite surprised to find that we were so far down that list, because if you speak to the majority of people in this country, they would say, oh, our press are very good. And you think, I mean, I stopped buying because I knew that they weren't,
Yeah.
But it's going, well, I think it's going to be an eye-opener for a few people when I mention that to them. And that's why things are not covered, and why Tibet doesn't get a mention when we go on the marches for Tibet. Yeah. It doesn't get a mention, not on the news, not in the papers or anything, because there's blocks on them all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, and the mass media are certainly part of those, defensive structures that are, they are, of course, having control of the press is very important for a government that wants to control the people. And of course, when you control the press, you also control people's opinions about whether the press is free or not. Because if people's opinions are, influenced by what they read in the papers, they're going to think that the papers are, that's how things are. But I think, it's interesting how, I was quite depressed when I heard that the Daily Mail has a very good website. Well, yeah, of course, so they would be wise to that, wouldn't they? And Facebook, they're very switched on with social media and everything. Because I was thinking that those, unhelpful kind of newspapers might be having less influence because of the rise of social media and everything. But not so, because of course, the power structures recognize these things when they're happening, and they get in there, and they're going to operate on that level too. But nevertheless, the fact that the entry barrier to being able to communicate to a lot of people is now far lower. This is a positive thing. I'm not one of those people who believe that somehow technology is going to save us. I mean, people were saying a while back that the internet is going to save us from the dominance of big media corporations. And I'm not sure. Any solution, any sort of idea that some technological thing is going to solve our problems for us, I'm very suspicious of. But nevertheless, they can be technologies can be helpful if they're used in the right way. Yeah, but it's true. I mean, so it sometimes it can seem like, well, how can any change possibly happen? Because these power structures have the ability to manipulate people's, views, and that's a very challenging thought. But I actually think that doesn't mean that things are hopeless by any means. It's not really, it's not completely true. It's very odd though, what's happening in America, I find very strange. That you've got, I suppose about half of that nation believing an incredible farrago of lies that are being fed to them every day. And because they're being fed to them, very skillfully, because the people who are doing it have very good scientific understanding of how people's psychology works, they're able to maintain like a false worldview, and anything that happens can be reinterpreted in the light of this different worldview, so that it always appears that everything Donald Trump is doing is wonderful, because if you don't have any, if your media has no compunction about telling outright lies, then and people are believing them, then it's amazing how much manipulation can be done. But nevertheless, I don't think it's all powerful. Sorry, Maggie, you're muted. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just I had to sort of shut the bird up.
Is it my? Oh, sorry, I know.
It's all right. It's all right. No. I mean, I love hearing the bird, but it was a bit distracting from something else that was being said. Yeah, because Dee was rather quiet.
All right. Sorry.
I mean, things may have moved on since I heard this newscast, and it's in relation to the global governance that you spoke about. That we talk about, we're all connected and and so on, but the world is still very separate. And what could happen is that when they do, whoever does, discover this vaccine for this virus, that it could end up being gobbled up by the pharmaceuticals, and they will make the decision then where to distribute the vaccine to. So the poorer countries are not going to have that opportunity to ever be sort of clear of and so on and so on. Where I'm going, but and then and that that's just makes me so frustrated and angry. Well, not angry and disappointed.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's devastating. Yeah. When we kind of connect with these realities of how appalling and dreadful the injustice of the system is, then it can be, of course, we naturally go into upset. It's just, devastating to contemplate.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that affects me most is the injustice, and I suppose, one of the things that keeps me going, or is keeping me going at the moment, is I recognized a long time ago that, because of course when I was young, I saw things very much in terms of a political campaign is what we need. You've frozen them again. I think you're not. Yeah, he's not hearing me. So I'll just wait a moment to see if she comes back, because I don't want her to miss what I'm saying.
No, she's not frozen. I can see her blinking. She's listening.
Are you there, Maggie? Are you there? Are you hearing me? I don't think she's hearing me. I think she's frozen.
That sounds strange.
Yeah. Yeah, that may have been, we perceive things that aren't there because our mind fills in the gaps, I think you're possibly seeing her blinking. Hello, Maggie, you're back. Disappeared again. Are you there, Maggie? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Intermittently.
Yes. When
Wow.
you just, you're still going.
Yeah.
I can't. There's sort of interruptions in the
Yeah.
signal or transmission. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. It went. All I could see was my intermittently. That's the word. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like you still got a weak connection there because the video is not very strong. Okay, but you're hearing me now?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Bit wobbly. Okay, well, I'll continue, and apologies, Maggie, if you don't hear everything that I'm saying.
On and off.
Okay.
No, don't worry.
Yeah.
You carry on.
All right. So yes, I mean, we have to find ways of processing those painful reactions, because it's not healthy to either suppress them or to get completely swamped by them. Although, of course, at moments it just is overwhelming, and we can just acknowledge, well, I'm overwhelmed. I can't kind of deal with this, and we may have to kind of numb out a little bit, and come back later. But it's also important to balance that. Yeah, we this is a very important part of this transformation of consciousness. That individually we have to find ways that we can be with the reality of the situation that is in the world, because if we can't kind of integrate it at all into our individual psyche, if we can't, there's just different ways that we can react to that which are not the most helpful. So to shut down completely, to run away from it, or to get extremely angry. And as I was saying, I used to kind of put my faith in political campaigns, and I realized after quite a long time, well, I mean, I still participate occasionally, but the mindset of opposition that is very much part of that. I realized that that's kind of fundamentally unhelpful. So I joined the Labour Party a while back because I was very keen on Jeremy Corbyn. Of course, he was silenced by the media, predictably. But I do have a problem with political parties because they are based on this, opposition, and having essentially, identifying someone or something or some part of the system as the enemy, and that's part of the problem. And although we can recognize that certain people or organizations or nation states or whatever are acting very destructively, like Claire was saying, we need to include those people in our compassion and recognize they are damaging things and people because they themselves are damaged. I think that's the most helpful way to look at it, because if you look at it that way, then you can respond to the suffering as a tragedy. If you respond to it as of course it is unjust, it is an injustice, we need to recognize that, acknowledge it, but there's a danger there of getting into a mind of blaming. And that mind of blaming, of course, from Buddha's point of view, is really, it's very clear what that is based on. It is based on what we technically call self-grasping. It doesn't mean selfish, but it means the illusion of a inherently existing self that is what we are blaming. If you're blaming a self. Somebody's, this person is to blame for this action. When in fact, if they're doing a negative action, in terms of Buddhist understanding of how the human mind works, they're doing that because they are the victim of an illusion, of a mistake, of, and they're also, it's helpful to understand in terms of that they are doing damaging things because they are damaged. And so you can then have compassion, and you can recognize that person is fundamentally, in their basic nature, is exactly the same as me, and it's only their history that has made them act destructively. And when we can connect with that reality and realize, okay, both the perpetrator and the victim of injustice are both in a state of suffering. And what we need is to understand. We need to bring awareness and understanding to, why is this happening? How can we bring some awareness into this situation that can help to heal that process?
Wonderful.
Sorry. I think it's something to do is when you see it, when we see ourselves as separate, when that separateness is quite powerful, and the other person, and then they can blame the other person and go with that, as opposed to realizing that the lack of realization, if you hurt that other person, you're actually hurting yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not an easy one to grasp, I don't think.
No, it's not easy.
I don't think so.
No, it's very deep, very deep.
And actually, I'm just thinking then, a flash of thought was, how many people actually hurt themselves anyway?
Oh, yes.
You
In
know,
lots of ways, yeah.
when you hurt yourself in that respect, you will be also hurting the other people, even if they're separate and not involved with the experience. That it's got to, it seems to me that it must work both ways.
Certainly. Yeah, we do. I mean, if our psyche is damaged, then we will hurt ourselves in all sorts of ways. You know, even physically, but mentally, in the way that we relate to the people that are significant to us. You know, in our relationships, we want to have a loving relationship with our partner, our family, or whatever, and we can't, and we you know. It's mystifying. So why isn't this working? You know, and we all hurt. We're all damaged on some level, aren't we? You know, we all have these experiences, and so we have to have compassion for ourselves as well.
I think we're all damaged, agree, but in some ways a little bubble of thought pops up in my head that says we're also all heroes.
Oh yes, yes.
You know, so like what sometimes I get a contradictory bubble that pops up.
Yes.
Yes, this is this, and then all of a sudden, well, it's also this. And
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was listening to a talk by Thich Nhat Hanh the other day. It was very amusing, actually. It was about karma, and it was very interesting. But one of the things he was saying, I think he must have been, you know, on this wavelength a little bit at the time. And every point that he brought up, he was saying, of course, you know, that's one thing, and then there's the opposite. But there are no opposites. So, you know, every time we think there's opposites, every time we think one thing, every time we say one thing, we, you know, make a statement, then we have to recognize we're bringing in the opposite of that, and we're saying that's not true, but actually the statement and the opposite are not separate from one another. They are the same. So this can be very confusing to our left brain.
My left brain's rather squashed.
Well, Claire, I see you as a true hero of the right brain. You know, I think that we need lots of people who have got very good, well-functioning right brains, and I think you're a good example.
Thank you. It does have its challenges, though.
I'm sure it does, yeah. You know, the right brain is very holistic, and I had a very powerful experience with Claire because I was having a very in-depth conversation with her, and while we were having this conversation, she was cooking a very complicated meal, you know, with about 7 different things, and everything had to be for the right time, you know, and she was just doing that with while she was engaged with this, you know, and I couldn't do that. I was really impressed. That's the right brain for you. It has everything kind of, you know, knows where everything is in this big picture and can relate it all. Anyway, little anecdote about you, Claire. Okay.
I was just thinking about, you know, things that had influenced myself. I was thinking how you can try to put things out there that can try and facilitate changes of consciousness.
Right.
And I just thought about some key moments for me, which had come through just simple things like reading a leaflet about factory farming, which convinced me to become vegetarian, you know, like 40 years ago. You know, one leaflet and then one video, you know, a particular video or a particular conversation with someone. And I was just thinking about those things that we can actually put out there that can really help to facilitate things, you know, and there may be a combination of things, but there's something that you connect with that really makes a difference, and then there's tipping, like a positive tipping point.
Very good,
and sort of the importance of finding ways of putting out, you know, raising awareness, if you like, or making things accessible to people so that they can connect with them in their own time. Which might make them, you never know, do you, quite which leaflet or which video or which conversation will really make a difference for someone. And you don't always you don't really need to know, do you? But you can just keep doing what you can.
No, the pebble in the pond, and the ripple spreads out infinitely. And just a couple of examples because they came to my mind. I mean, one is this course that I'm doing on a Wednesday evening, which makes my Wednesdays and Thursdays challenging because I have 8 hours of Zoom in 2 days. But anyway, group adaptation course, and one of the people, and we have a small group of 4 people within that big group, and one of the people in that group started something called the Hum of Hope. So, you know, it was just, she was a bit disappointed when there was a little bit of relaxation of the lockdown and she started hearing more cars, and she put this thing out there: let's all, you know, stand outside our doors on a Sunday evening at 8 p.m. and just hum for a quiet world, you know. Let's with the message like, you know, this is saying we want the world to stay quiet and not go back to being as noisy as it was. And I was just like, such a very easy thing to do, you know, just a little thing and put it out there and see if that ripple spreads out. And the other thing, of course, is the Eco Dharma, which just, you know, Harry thought, oh, we should have an environment officer, and invited me, and I invited Rowena. I said I'd prefer to do it jointly rather than all on my own. And then this happened. And then now suddenly, as a result of that, we've got this global tree project, and we're going to try and plant 5,000 trees all of a sudden. And it's like just this little idea, and suddenly, you know, something seems to be taking off. I mean, I know there's only 5 of us here. I'm still mystified why, but there must be a reason for that, why this isn't kind of suddenly growing, because it could, and maybe it will, you know, but it doesn't matter. Like you say, Rowena, you don't know.
No, you don't know
How the ripple is going to ripple out.
So just to explain what's happened, it's only a week. It was literally a week from, I had a conversation with somebody called Jackie, who is a key person in the Global Tree Initiative. And in less than a week, we managed to link up with a local wildlife organisation called Make It Wild, who have given us, who want to collaborate with us in planting a new woodland on a 5-acre site in Nidderdale, just outside Harrogate. And the site is for 5,000 trees. Not that we need to do that, but it is completely open to, you know, we can collaborate in as much as we're able to and want to. and in the planning of the site, and there could be a clearing that could be, like used for meditation. And this whole project came about in less than a week.
Wow.
And that kind of way that things can connect and the collective energy can really bring things together very quickly, it's just been a really stunning thing to experience.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to what you were saying though, Rowena, about you can set some things in motion and nothing really will come of them. But then if it's the right time,
yes,
they will. And sometimes you can sow a seed with somebody.
Yeah.
And years later, you're back in contact with them, and they're suddenly saying, do you remember when you said so-and-so to me? And I never thought anything much of it, but it's obviously been sitting somewhere.
Yeah.
And the time is right. And I feel that with groups like ours at the moment, I think that this is at the right time, which is why I think there's an awful lot of things that are happening. It's almost like at the same time as all these horrendous things are happening with all of the deaths and everything else, and it's major doom and gloom for a lot of things, but at the same time there is this bubble or these other bubbles that are rising that are just as strong.
Yes.
And that people are having this, well, it's this raising the consciousness that you were talking about. There's a group, and maybe it's a time for this balance to get right again. Maybe the power bit that was up at the top is now actually coming down, and the global consciousness of other people are actually raising it up again.
And you can see how when you get the combination of things coming together, how you get this kind of exponential change, really, or growth or development. Things can happen very quickly.
Because it's the right time.
It's the right time. It's astonishing, and then people have gotten interested, and I don't know. It really is remarkable.
Yeah, that's right. And sorry,
I just said about the timing is quite extraordinary, because this organisation, Make It Wild, is literally just buying this piece of land that they want, and the sale is literally just going through. So the timing of us connecting with them to see if it might be possible to be involved with them just happened at this moment when they're buying their 2 fields, fields altogether 5 acres, that they want to plant with trees this autumn. I mean, it's astonishing timing. It's just a really, like a little microcosm and an example of what can happen, I guess. Positive energies coming together.
And Rowena,
No.
Sorry, Rowena. Who is it that's getting involved with Making It Wild? You say.
Sorry. It's the. No. I probably didn't explain. It's the Eco Dharma group at Jamyang, Leeds. So just recently, it's probably only about a month ago or 2 months ago, can't quite remember, 6 weeks ago, David and I became environment officers jointly at
I saw that.
So it's like a new project.
And,
we had a meeting, which is probably about a month ago now, when we just asked people to join, to share ideas and explore different things we might do, how we might take the project forward. And we had a really good meeting, and various suggestions came from that.
Right.
And one of which was to explore developing a connection with what's called the Global Tree Initiative, which is set up by OSL, Lama OSL, to plant 100,000 trees as an offering for the long life of the Dalai Lama and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So I got in touch. Following that up, that's why I got in touch with this person called Jackie, and this is how this all happened. So it's part of what we're calling the Eco Dharma project at Jamyang.
Right. Wow.
So this is an outreach project. So we're it's like taking it out from the centre to try and work on in different ways with environmental crisis. Trying to both in terms of study like we're doing here, but also taking it out and being actively engaged in the community.
Brilliant. Right.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah.
Well done. That's fantastic.
We're bringing out a newsletter on Monday that will update people.
Right.
And we're linking in with things like the Buddhist Action Month, which is in June, and which is that's national month of linking up with different Buddhist groups, and the theme of the whole month is called for the Earth. So
wow.
Whole environmental themes. So then another part of what we're doing is linking up with that.
Right, wonderful.
So we've hit the ground running, I think.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to mention something else that Rowena hasn't mentioned, and it's next Thursday. There is a meeting of this Eco Dharma group, and this is it's not a business meeting. It's just a kind of exploration of a different topic that we're going to do each month, and this month it's going to be vegetarianism and veganism. So,
wow.
So that will be. I think you're all going to get this information anyway.
Yes.
On Monday.
Does everybody want to be on the Eco Dharma? There's a Jamyang mailing list. Which
I'm on that.
There's also a specific Eco Dharma mailing list.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I did say to go on.
You're on it, Dee.
I think that yes.
Yes.
I should be on it.
Yes.
Yes.
Claire, I think you might be on it.
I'm on it, aren't I?
I think, are you on it? I'll check. But yeah. So the Eco Dharma mailing list, we send out things more regularly. And the general Jamyang mailing list, it'll probably be monthly.
Right. Thank you.
You know what time it is next Thursday?
7
o'clock, I think. Is that right?
Okay.
What time?
7 o'clock.
7 p.m.
That's right.
We've got a group on your group, David, on Thursday.
I know this is a bit of a dilemma, and I'm going to have to talk to that group tomorrow, because this was organised before I knew I was going to be doing the Steps to Awakening course. I mean, it was planned a long time ago, but I thought it wasn't happening because it wasn't on the website, and I hadn't heard anything.
Right.
This was about 10 days before, and I thought, oh, so we've got a clash. But I guess we'll work something out.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just got a new group starting at 8:15 on Thursdays as well. That we're offering to people who are having a problem and want to actually share during the pandemic sort of time, like a heart and soul thing. So to offer them some time to chat if they need to.
Yeah.
It's going to be every week on a Thursday, because we thought that was a fairly safe time.
Yeah.
No, there are no safe times at the moment.
There's no safe time.
Okay, thank you, everyone. It's a few minutes to go, so I think we should probably finish with a bit of time for meditation dedication. Has anybody got anything urgent they need to say or ask? Okay, let's do that then.